Live, the NFL cut down deadline has just happened. We're going to go through all of it from the Browns and around the National Football League on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. The sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Cut back by Chubb. He's to the 10. He's still running to the 5. He dips outside left. He's going in. Touchdown. What a run. Nick Chubb.
It's going to be sick.
All right, everybody. Andy McNamara with you. Yes, the 4 p.m. deadline has hit, and teams have to be down to the 53-man roster across the National Football League. So we're going to go through that with the Browns. Other news, trades still coming in, news still coming in from all over the place. Any fantasy football impact, we'll dip into that as well as we go through what this means for the Cleveland Browns. And some roster moves and shakeups and trades and all that have been trickling down throughout the day. So we'll get to all that. But first, make sure you're clicking subscribe right there. Just quick little thing, get the notification bell so you know whenever a show is going to be coming on. Down in the description of the show here on the YouTube channel, we have our fantasy football and Browns merchandise. We got our betting signups where you got lots of bonuses if you click those links and sign up right through there. So tons of fun at that point. And I'll tell you also a little bit later on the show, but a new pick'em pool, which also gives to charity, and it's free to play. So I'll get into that a little bit later on. But let's look at what the Browns have done leading up to this point, okay? Because as we know, the kicking situation was dire. That was really the main focus. We can talk about backup running backs. We can talk about third, fourth offensive lineman on the depth chart, but it was kicker as far as where the concern was. Make sure, too, you're following us on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, on Instagram at AndyMCSports, on TikTok as well from there. Make sure you subscribe. So with that being said, it was, okay, where could the Browns go? We talked about it on the show. The available kickers who were unsigned was 40-year-old possible future Hall of Famer Robbie Gould, who still has it at 40. But apparently he was going to be picky. And we don't know the behind the scenes. Did Andrew Berry check in? Did he say no? Was there interest? Whatever the case might be, he's not here. Lo and behold, the Chargers have their second-year kicker, their younger guy that they're going to sign, and that made Dustin Hopkins available. So for Hopkins now, he's 32 years old. He's made the last 2 years 90% of his kicks, but there's always a reason somebody's available, right? And this reason was injury proneness. He missed some injury with a hamstring issue in camp. Last year, only made 10 field goals, appeared in 5 games. So that still makes me a little nervous, of course, of like, all right, well, you got rid of Cade York. Had to be done. We wanted it to work out. We all wanted it to work out. It didn't work out. He's gone. So now Hopkins is in. But do you keep Hopkins with a backup on the practice squad? Do you bring Cade York back? How does that work out? What does that seem like when it comes to this season? Because you're one tweaked hammy away from things going south, right? So Hopkins is in. Obviously, he made the 53-man roster along with the long snapper and punter Bojorquez there. Got a special guest, ESPN Radio's and Cleveland sports personality, Matt Fontana is going to jump on. He's fresh out of a meeting. We're getting all. He's in the car. Who knows?
I'm in the car. Just got out of a meeting. I was just saying we kind of got to wrap it up here. I got out of 4:01, so it worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Perfect, man. Well, thanks for jumping on. And hey, we got the Browns released the graphics. They got ahead of us a little bit here before the 4:00 deadline of who's going to make it, who's not. I was just talking about the kicking situation. Obviously, Hopkins there. But from the roster standpoint, Matt, I think it was interesting because although Andrew Berry did keep, of course, some of his own draft picks and maybe some questionable ones, he also cut a few, right? Dimitri Felton gone and Anthony Schwartz also let go, which at least for Browns fans, I think you can point to and be like, all right, that's a little refreshing. You have some hope there.
Yeah, and I think any GM, that's a tough pill to swallow when you say that a draft pick didn't pan out because you think every single one of them will or they have this point. And sometimes there are GMs that get in their own way because they are a draft pick and they just want to continue to be proven right. that they made the right pick, even sometimes to the detriment of the team, knowing that they're really not what they need or not really what they're looking for. So you give credit where credit is due. I think, like you said, Andy, there's no way that anybody was really crying when Anthony Schwartz was like, oh, that just didn't work here. You see what they tried to do. It just never really developed into the receiver that they thought. Felton was interesting because a lot of people wanted to say about the return game and what that might mean. I just don't think he ever showed enough on offense. And we've heard this like cautionary tale recently, mostly with Isaiah Simmons getting let go or traded away in Arizona, where people say we don't like tweeners. You don't like tweeners.
Yeah.
So like Felton was, he could be a running back or a wide receiver. I really think that was one of his biggest downfalls. What was he? They tried him at receiver, then they had to move him back to running back, and he was never really able to establish and work on the things that he needed to at the specific positions. So again, those two just kind of filling it up. And yeah, you might be saying, well, that's crazy that they traded for Pierre Strong, a guy that wasn't here. Wouldn't you rather take the known? But again, I think Felton was really just a victim of being that tweener. He just never really had a true position, which again, teams value versatility only to a point.
Yeah, it's a great point you bring up, because are you a receiver or are you a running back? And sometimes you're neither. And so with Pierre Strong, and that really, that had the light bulb go on to me, Matt, because when you look at Pierre Strong, when he was brought in, I was like, that's kind of Demetric Felton, 4.37 little running back who's super fast and kind of a gadget guy that can do a lot of things. So he's in. Now, Jerome Ford, good news, was back at Browns practice day. He's been nursing that leg injury for quite a while. Are you nervous at all about this running back group? Like Nick Chubb, obviously, he's the man and then some, but behind him wasn't quite as comfortable as it was maybe the last couple of years with Kareem Hunt in office. Yeah, but also knowing that they're probably not going to run the football as much as they had in the past. And it's going to be Nick Chubb, and a guy that doesn't really miss practice. He's there game in and game out. So I think people really got into the when it was Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb of, we have to have two, and how can we run with both of these guys, and what can we do with two when sometimes you only need one, and the one you have is in a very elite running back. I'm not overly concerned about it, and especially if Ford can just put this behind him. I know hamstrings can be very finicky, and it can be something that lingers throughout the year. But I feel fine. I feel confident with Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford being your 1-2. And then again, you keep Pierre Strong around for potential kick return duties, they're whatever it might be. But I feel fine with Chubb and Ford for sure. In conversation with Matt Fontana from ESPN Radio, Cleveland sports personality, you bring up possible return, and that again was supposed to be solved like it was this time last year with Jakeem Grant. But oh man, you feel so bad for the guy. 400 days, works hard, the Achilles, blows his knee out. He could be done. He could be retired. I think he's 30. This could be it for him. So now we go back to all right, well, we haven't had a proper return guy since Travis Benjamin. Is this going to be, do you think, another hodgepodge? They'll try out Strawn. Maybe they put DPJ. Maybe, just if, and put some guys back there. I think DPJ will be your punt returner. He did that. He was only one of three guys to return a punt for a touchdown last year. So I think you leave him in that spot. The kick returner, I would give it back to Ford. I saw enough. I thought that it made sense. The difference is this year with this fair catch rule, and I don't expect them to be doing that very much. Bubba Ventrone hates it. Like, he hates it. He doesn't like the rule, and just watching him preseason, they don't fair catch it, and they're going to return kicks. So it is a position, I think, of value. Mm-hmm. There was scuttlebutt about Cordell Patterson. I don't know if that's quite in the best interest to go make a move, because that's pretty much all he would do. I understand that his running back reps are going to be cut in Atlanta. There's really aren't carries for him there anymore. I guess maybe if it was a late round pick and you could work the salary out a little bit, but I would say just run with Ford. He did, I think, okay as the kick returner, DPJ as your punt returner, and a couple other guys that could potentially just fill in as backups. Right. And Marquise Goodwin returning to practice, which is great news with the blood clot. And that, unfortunately, Matt, we'll bring up the graphics with the rosters of the Browns, the 53-man in a moment. But the camp darling, and I know you can only say so much for preseason, whatever, but man, Austin Watkins, that dude earned a spot. I'm sorry. This dude earned a roster spot here. Yeah, and that's a tough one, and that's part of the business, but also a lot of these guys know that they are off the roster when they sign.
They know that when they show up to camp that they have to do something insane and crazy. And I'm not saying that Austin Watkins didn't, and I'm not saying that he didn't play to a high level, but just knowing that sometimes that hill is almost insurmountable. Like it's too hard to climb. And it's the unfortunate thing. And, again, there's drafted pick guys. I really question if David Bell was going to make this roster.
Yeah.
Not necessarily at the expense or, vice versa for Austin Watkins. I just really wondered what it would be for him. I just haven't seen much, battling the injuries, all those kind of things. So, I was a little intrigued to see that wide receiver room kind of play out the way that it did. I think it was about what most people expected, but it sucks for Watkins. I tweeted this, people kind of jumped on it. They're like, he's not clearing waivers. He might clear waivers. And the thing is, you got to look at preseason for what it is. It's not all the starters out there. And these talent evaluators in the NFL will always and still continue to fall back to their draft grades and profiles. And It's not saying that they don't watch preseason or they look at what these guys did in preseason, but it's just more also that they had a grade on Austin. He went undrafted for a reason. And these teams that had grades on him and passed through him, it's not like 2-3 preseason games and all of a sudden he should be a number 2 receiver for somebody. I like Austin Watkins as much as the next person. I was not overly shocked that he didn't make the team. I think he's a great practice squad candidate, and I hope they get him back. I do.
Yeah, and he got cut from the CFL as well. Like there's reasons. And hey, you always do sometimes, once in a while, you have that story of a guy who just randomly clicks. Maybe he's the guy, maybe it's not. Let's bring up the graphics here for the rosters. Because David Bell, I probably got caught up in the preseason hype, but I feel that's another one. If you wanted to keep him, I'm not against David Bell, but he's never done anything, Matt, to wow me. I think you could have had David Bell go to the practice squad and keep Austin Watkins. And if Watkins falters, bring up David Bell. I don't think there's going to be a rush to go get David Bell off of the practice squad.
Well, I would say there's more of a risk for him getting claimed just as a draft pick. So I think that may be the reason the Browns did what they did, was because they felt like there was a better chance for them to get Watkins through to the practice squad. And yeah, if I'm David Bell, that of those 6 wide receivers, you're probably 6th. And you have your top 3. You have Marquise Goodwin, who's got a specialty type of role where he's just going to be the speed guy. And Cedric Tillman is pretty much, at this point, seems to be a steal. So he knows he's the last wide receiver. My thing, and I tried to watch as much as I could of preseason on his snap count for special teams. Because it's rare on an NFL team that you don't have one wide receiver who is some sort of a special teams ace. And I'm not saying like a Josh Cribbs of the world, but your Kadero Hodges of the world. These guys that they really do make a name on special teams. And Bell is out there for some, but not every one of them. So that's another thing where if you're not getting meaningful reps and you're not in a lot of packages offensively, and then you're only on 1 or 2 special teams units, that really starts to become it becomes hard just to validate your roster spot.
Yeah, it does. It does. Let's go to the chat too, and you can jump in if you're watching live on YouTube. Click subscribe here on Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, talking Browns NFL news. Our buddy Grant, a couple notes here says, remember Dustin Hopkins lost his job to Dicker the kicker, and that is why that's why the Chargers were willing to trade him. Yeah, second-year player. Hopefully that fixes our kicking woes. If he doesn't kick well, we better look at the holder. And, I don't think, Matt, and you've been at practice a lot, if there was a problem with the holder, you'd see it in practice. Like Cade York was making, if not 100% of his kicks in practice, like 99%. Like it doesn't seem to me that the holder problem would carry over into a game. This is mental for Cade York.
It is, and if there's a holder problem, like I like Corey Borquez, they'll find another punter. Like they'll do something to change that. It was mental with Cade York, and it's rare that you find kickers. There's that upper echelon, right? The Harrison Butkers and the Justin Tuckers and the Evan McPhersons and all that. But their kickers rotate and they just move, and you just hope to find one that just happens to be outside of those guys, I should say. You hope to find one that just happens to be on an upswing year. Knowing that they're going to run into something again. And it just, you saw all the transactions today with kickers. You just see the same names get moved. Brett Maher played for like 7 teams. Randy Bullock's been on 8 teams. If I got to see, obviously Robbie Gould had a nice career and long in San Francisco, and he's on the street. People are asking about him and all that, but it's just a rotation. And as you bring in the younger guys that you believe are the next wave, there's a good chance they're going to fail. Like, as volatile as finding a quarterback is, that's about as volatile as a position as finding a franchise kicker. It's almost just as hard. Now, one is much more important than the other, but they're really hard to find.
Yeah. And a kicker is seen as not important until he is, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Kickers aren't. Who cares? We need to win this game. Yeah, the kicker becomes kind of important. Nick Folk getting traded from the Patriots to the Titans as well today. So another longtime journeyman. Another comment here on the live YouTube stream. Outside of Nick Chubb, I'm not totally impressed with Ford or Strong. Wonder if Hunt is sitting out there week 4 if we consider signing him. Now, what I've heard, Matt, is that, and it's kind of come from Stump Mitchell, the running back coach, as he was saying last year, I think the number was 4 yards per carry. I might be off, but he's like, if you're in this offense, that's the starting point, 4 yards. Yeah. And he kind of kept challenging indirectly Kareem Hunt, and he never quite got there. I wonder if it's on, maybe he didn't get enough reps or an injury, or maybe just you're at that running back age where you're not as effective.
I'd bet my house he's not ever going to play for the Cleveland Browns again. Like, that's just not going to happen. I don't see it. Like, there's stuff that came out that he wasn't the same guy, that he had lost a step. I don't think so. And again, it's with the way this offense should be set up with how it rolls, you shouldn't need more than Nick Chubb. You really shouldn't. So you should be able to do what you need to with him. And then, again, I'm not saying you don't need a backup here and there, but it's not the same situation of Chubb and Hunt, and you're going to need to split carries. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. And the question is behind Jerome Ford. It's all kind of hypothetical of, is he going to be and Pierre Strong? Okay. He Patriots don't give up guys for nothing either. So where's that going to be? If Nick Chubb stays healthy, this shouldn't be an issue. But if there is, then, that could always come into it. So there's the running back, the wide receiver. I think before moving to the defense, Matt, Cedric Tillman. I'm so excited for what this guy's going to develop, and more so for next year. But I kind of want to see, and I guess we'll have to wait to see how the year plays out, but Amari Cooper and DPJ and Cedric Tillman. Like, Tillman's going to take one of those spots. I would think probably DPJ, but I don't feel like we've really seen Donovan Peoples-Jones's full potential yet. Like, he flashed it, but still seems like there's a lot there.
Well, and it might be a good crossroads where he needs a deal, and maybe it's good that we haven't seen what people believe he could be, because you're going to get him on a little bit of the cheap there. Cooper's money, as we know, kind of runs out. There's an out in his deal. Donovan Peoples-Jones needs a deal after this, and Elijah Moore is really going to need one too. So I think of those 3, 2 are going to be here. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be DPJ and Elijah Moore. I don't know for a fact. But I think it's probably Amari Cooper's last year here in Cleveland. I think most people can kind of see that writing on the wall, and then you can focus and allocate a little bit of the cash that they saved. Because again, people are always looking at these restructures. A lot of that is going to go towards Watson, but if they roll that cap space over, that helps them sign other positions too. And maybe that's something where they can use a little of the cash this year, sign Donovan to an extension that kicks in next year, use up some of that on a signing bonus this year, something like that. Andrew Barry works the numbers about as good as anybody. Yeah. So that's another option for him for sure.
Yeah. And then eventually when we end up getting a first round pick back, still not next year, seems like forever. You can still find, like, look, Cedric Tillman, you got third round, like that is, he's going to be a heck of a player. So maybe you find in the second round, you have to start, if you have these expensive quarterbacks, that's where you still have to start hitting on those type of draft picks. So that's, we'll see how that develops. Elijah Moore is going to be a key part. Let's pull up the defense here, guys, and take a look. Because, boy, Matt, throughout the preseason, the defense, I think, scored first in 3 of the preseason games for the Browns. And this was without Myles Garrett out there. Yes, the other teams don't show anything, blah, blah, blah. But, boy, don't you just feel that different type of electricity? I'm thinking, I'm very excited of what I'm going to see out of this defense, especially that front D line.
Yeah, and that's where it all starts in Jim Schwartz's defenses. We know I saw them standing up. I call it jet. Some people might call it different things, but they're stand up edge rush. You saw some things interior with guys rushing. You see the DB blitzing. And knowing that, there wasn't the full complement out there. I mean, even just the starting D-line of Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett, Shelby Harris, and Dalvin Tomlinson, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I'm not trying to be, put hyperbole on it. I truly think that's a top 10 starting defensive line in the NFL. Now they need to produce. That might be top 10 just in names or in contract, but there's a chance they could be very, very productive in that, in that defensive line room and really help Jim Schwartz. As far as how it went, I don't really know shocks here. I think with Wright, being injured, there's a chance he goes to IR coming off the knee surgery. That'll free up a position. Then when he comes back, Jordan Elliott, a lot of people had questioned where he was going to be, if he was going to be released. I never thought about necessarily releasing him, but I was kind of wondering if he played really well in preseason, which is what I thought they were trying to do by playing him so much, that a team might come calling and say, hey, we'll give you a 6th, 7th round pick for Elliott. We know his deal got redone. It was fully guaranteed. So it was hard to get rid of him, but I was wondering if he played so well that maybe some team would come calling for him. They didn't. He's here. He's going to be a rotational guy, future beyond this year. Who knows? I am a little shocked that neither Tristan Hill nor Maurice Hurst made it. I thought one of those might have an outside shot, just because they were both brought in. I thought maybe more Maurice Hurst, who flashed a little bit, had the 1 sack. I thought there was a chance, but then when I really looked at it, there wasn't, because Harris, Tomlinson, and Ika were guarantees. When Elliott wasn't traded, you're not carrying 5 D tackles. You're just not. So that kind of got cut there. But I was a little shocked that neither one of those guys made it. Maybe practice squad candidates for sure.
From Grant in the chat says, I'm tired of being top 10 on paper and then tanking during the season. I hope the issues are fixed with Joe Woods out and Schwartz in. And Matt, I got to say, Schwartz, the guys, it's finally not first-time coordinator guy or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's won a Super Bowl has had top defenses his whole career. This is a professional. He demands professionalism. He keeps it simple. Everything's lined up. Barring injury, I think this seems as legit of a potential to be a top 10 as any time in recent memory.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a scheme that's known, that's versed, that he knows what he's running and he knows what to get out of it, right? This isn't something that he's figuring things out on the fly either. So there's something to be said about that. There's the strengths of what the Browns' defensive strengths should be for what Jim Schwartz needs. They match up. He needs a strong D-line. Well, the D-line got revamped. And again, it's on paper. I understand that. But it should be and is paid to be one of the better units on this team, and hopefully they'll show up. And at the end of the day, you're given a defensive coordinator who runs a strong D-line, a generational type pass rusher. He'll figure it out.
With the best compliment they've had in Zadarius Smith. Let's pull back up the roster there for a sec, guys. And what I find, and I can't wait to see, is the creativity with Schwartz, because we're not necessarily looking at, Matt, your traditional, this is a defensive end, this is a defensive end, and that's where they stay. We could be seeing Obo Okoronkwo on one side, Myles Garrett sliding in, Zadarius Smith on the other end, and you put Isaiah McGuire on. Like, they get so creative with that pressure, which doesn't rely on blitzing, which then, of course, lets those cornerbacks go into the man and safeties go into man. And we'll have to see what the linebackers do from that standpoint. Mahmoud Diabate. This is a guy who flashed, who looked like he was under the radar working hard, and he made the roster. And despite the question marks we had at wide receiver, this is a feel-good story because this guy looks like he's a playmaker.
Yeah, nice body type, too. I think he's big. Tall, he's lean,
6'4",
he's big. Yeah, I mean, he can get in there, make some plays, but I think he probably helped his case by being on special teams, too.
Yeah.
And that's really where a lot of linebackers that if you're not a starter, you better be on multiple special teams. So I think that really helped. The linebacking core is one that is intriguing for a couple of reasons. Like, I was gutted to see Jacob Phillips go back down with injury. I've always been kind of more of a believer in him than I should have been. I really thought this might have been a big year for him. So he goes back down. It sucks about Jordan Kanashik too, because I think he was maybe going to be your starting Mike linebacker with Anthony Walker still coming back from his quad injury. He's out with the MCL. I expect them to put him on short-term IR, free up a roster spot, potentially bring back one of the players we were talking about, or go waiver wire pick in there. But yeah, I mean, Diabate, as we much talk with Austin Watkins, Diabate did what he forced them to put him on the roster.
Yeah,
he forced them because he said, I played so well. If you didn't, I'm going to get picked up somewhere else. And I think it's pretty intriguing for Jim Schwartz to see a guy with that body type.
Yeah, well, these linebackers, what have we talked about? That they're smaller, and this is a guy with some size. Let's bring up the secondary, then we'll get you out of here, Matt. Appreciate the time. Matt Fontana, ESPN radio host and Cleveland sports personality. This is, again, a case where I love that the player that showed up, showed out, and delivered gets a shot. Doesn't hurt that he's from Ohio State either. Ronnie Hickman. Matt, all this guy did was get interceptions in preseason. He picked the ball off. And what has this defense been lacking? Now, different coordinator, of course, and we hope those turnovers spike up regardless. But you didn't have takeaways. You didn't have enough turnovers. Ronnie Hickman, ball hawk. They saw it, and they booked him in. I love it.
And I'm shocked they kept 5 safeties.
Me too.
We knew Thornhill, Delpit, and McLeod were for sure. I thought Hickman and DeAnthony Bell were fighting for one spot. And I frankly was going to give it to DeAnthony Bell just because he had a little more experience, a little more time here, a little more on special teams. Well, lo and behold, they were able to give it to Ronnie Hickman. And as you see, as the corners kind of laid out, again, knowing that the top 3 were a lock, with really Cam Mitchell also being a lock as a draft pick. And then the same thing, I didn't think there was any way AJ Green was not going to make this team. And then Ford, who could play special teams as well, coming in really with that, rounding it out. And then really when I thought about it, I don't, and Caleb Biggers had a nice preseason and had the pick 6 the other day. I really was trying to find a corner that I would have taken that spot away from Hickman. And then I kind of realized there wasn't one. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the other defensive positions, that actually could have been one where if they wanted to keep Mo Hurst on the D line versus keeping 5 safeties, I could have seen that trade-off. But I do think it comes back to wide receivers. That's how it's all connected here. It's how Andrew Barry works. That you don't have too many wide receivers that do special teams. So when you don't have wide receivers do that, what body type is closest to a wide receiver on special teams? That would be safeties. So I think you gave up a wide receiver special teamer to add that 5th safety, which again, Ronnie Hickman, DeAnthony Bell, either one of those. That's probably how that roster shook out the way that it did.
Great point. Yeah, you don't have the wide receiver, so you circle back with the similar body type. Last one for you here. The offensive line.
Yeah.
This is the nervous point for me because we had Michael Dunn, who I love. I'm shocked to a degree that he's gone. That guy was a Swiss Army knife, could do everything. But it comes down to draft picks. And Bill Callahan, Brown's offensive line coach, even said in camp, he's like, look, if you're a draft pick, you're going to play early, and you just have to coach these guys up and like it. And we're seeing that with Nick Harris and was it Whippler?
Luke Whippler, yeah.
Luke Whippler. And I like Whippler.
Yeah.
But it just seems like, I guess there wasn't maybe a case enough to replace one with Michael Dunn. I just kind of like that vet experience with Michael Dunn and that he's done it before.
Yeah, Whippler played a little guard this preseason, admitted it was a little foreign to him. Nick Harris had done it in college, but he's really a true center. Another guy that I swore the Browns were going to try to trade, that he put some good things on tape, and he was going to be their starter until Ethan Posick just came in and had a career year, signed him to an extension. It doesn't mean that Nick Harris is a bad center. It doesn't mean that he can't play. So that's one that I earmarked Jordan Elliott and Nick Harris as 2 guys that I thought if they showed well in preseason that the Browns would try really hard to flip in a trade. And I don't know if people call it or not, but Harris still being on the roster, I think tells you that they just assume for right now, which again, we know there's IR moves coming. They could bring Dunn back, Wednesday and try to flip it around. It's a little nerve-wracking to say like Whippler and Harris are your backup guards, but also I assume that'll be remedied by the first game. I do.
Yeah, so maybe add a vet here or there. That would hopefully be the case. And you got to have confidence in Dawan Jones. Like for all the stuff, Matt, coming in, the guy's throwing up, he's sick. We're like, oh man, we drafted a dud. Well, the magic of Bill Callahan, they challenged him. And he rose to the occasion. Like, this guy looks like he's developing into your future right tackle after the Conklin era eventually comes to an end.
Yeah, and that's how you want to do it, right? You want to draft guys that are you just want to draft replacements. And
yes,
the old saying is, in the first round, you want to draft Pro Bowlers. Second and third round, you want to draft quality starters. 4, 5, and 6, you're looking for depth. Seventh or crapshoots, right? That's where it is. DeJuan Jones, they drafted him as a developmental. You believe that one day he can start, and he's shown, I think, the steps towards that. You give him just give him time with Bill Callahan, and I think he'll get it figured out. I also think it allows James Hudson to just focus on left tackle, knowing that Jed Wills has 2 years left. I expect Jed Wills to play out these last 2 years, but I don't know. I mean, like, I was tweeting about it. Like, Jed he had a really rough game against Kansas City, and people were trying to make excuses and this and that. I understand you give ground and pass protection. That's just what you do in pass pro. You cannot get pushed back into the pocket. You give ground to the outside. You want to let your guy go up the field. You can't let him push you into the quarterback. And that's what's happening with Jed Wills. So big year for him. I hope he could turn it around. But at least with this, DeJuan Jones could stay at right tackle. And if you need to have James Hudson focus on left tackle, then that's something he can do as well.
Yeah, Jed Wills makes me quite nervous, but sure. We'll see. Matt, tell people where they can find you, hear you, all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You can just follow me on Twitter at MattFontana83. I'll be on ESPN Radio tonight, kind of just filling in. So we got a little bit of work doing that, doing some spaces here and there, and maybe an announcement here coming up in the future. I don't know. We'll have to see how things play out, but looking for the next step, and hopefully maybe have something for some people here coming up soon.
There we go. A little teaser, they call that in the business, Mr. Fontana. Very good. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon, Andy.
All right. There he goes. Matt Fontana from Cleveland talking Browns and roster moves. And really, if we break this thing down, we look at it this way. Follow him on Twitter at MattFontana83. Love the guy. Only 2 quarterbacks, okay? Deshaun Watson, of course, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who had the hot start to the preseason, kind of come back down to earth, right? And you have a 5th-round rookie as your primary backup. I would hope after cuts, today, over the next couple of days, we see the Browns bring in a veteran quarterback as the 3rd stringer. Okay? Someone to help coach up DTR, somebody who could maybe even play ahead of him depending on the situation. Hopefully just not like, remember the old Charlie Whitehurst clipboard Jesus type guy, like not like a total scrub that's never played, but someone quasi-competent. If Colt McCoy wasn't I think Colt McCoy is like 37, 38. I would love to see Colt come back just as in that role. He's done it so well as a backup for so long. Don't think it's in the cards, but I think like that type of guy who's come in, won games, and you can feel comfortable. At least he's going to be competent. You got to have that extra little bit there. So 2 quarterbacks. Yeah, Hickman and Diabate, so 2 undrafted free agents making it. And every backup offensive lineman is a Browns draft choice. So hopefully to the practice squad, Michael Dunn, Maurice Hurst, as Matt said, Austin Watkins. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get claimed. I would. And yeah, career-wise, no, but man, that guy balled out. He did. David Bell just doesn't do anything special. Like, does anybody worry if they cut David Bell? That it'd be like, oh no, someone took David Bell. Yeah. I know Stefanski loves him. Maybe that's how he stayed on, but he does nothing special. I saw special out of Watkins. Maybe it is just a flash. He did get cut from the CFL. He was undrafted, played in the USFL. Or maybe we caught somebody lightning in a bottle. I don't know. Let's go back to the chats here. And you can jump in the conversation. As always, click subscribe on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at AndyMC81, on Instagram at AndyMCSports, on TikTok there as well. We got from Grant, the secondary will have a no-fly zone this season. Yep. Well, hopefully they're going to it's going to be man. That's the Schwartz defense, right? It's defensive pressure, linebackers cover that middle, and if you're a corner, your responsibility is easy. No more complicated Joe Woods. Your responsibility is the guy you're in front of. You better make sure he doesn't catch the damn ball. That's it. Can they do it? Can they stay healthy? The health part is so big. Denzel Ward, concussion protocol. Greg Newsome gets back. They're very slender. They're very injury prone. Can they hold up to it? Jed ended up in Watson's lap on so many plays versus the Chiefs in the chest. Yep, he did. And Myles Garrett ate him up. And that's fine. Myles Garrett's one of the best in the business. That's fine. But I'm not seeing I'm seeing regression, not progression from Jed Wills. And yeah, you got him for 2 years, but like, where else can you go? Do you look to do a trade in season? We've seen that before. Baltimore did it, right? Maybe. Like, how much can you have him as a liability? How much you have to have an extra tight end on that side to help him out? How does that affect things? I like DTR as QB2 because he's an athletic QB and the playbook doesn't have to change much. Yeah. And that's the benefit. That at the very least. I hate when you see a starting quarterback in the backup is totally different, like a statue quarterback in the, it's a mobile running starter or vice versa. Because then you have to change the playbook. You don't. And DTR, exciting dude. But he did come back down to earth in preseason again, right? And he seemed kind of rattled. He's like, man, I didn't see that coming. Stefanski didn't see the Dobbs trade coming. Nothing. So I would like to just have that stable third for it. Just that presence that if for whatever reason you don't think DTR is capable, if something happens to Watson and you need a guy, put that guy in. Okay, just a little safety net. Just a little bit. Which means someone else would have to go. So, you can do that. And Bell who? Yeah, exactly. Dave Bell's done nothing. Austin Watkins done something. Who's claiming David Bell? And if they do, so what? But that's a third round pick. If you're Andrew Berry, right, that's the ego getting in there of, now if he lets Bell go, you got 2 wide receiver draft picks gone. Schwartz and him. Doesn't look good. And doesn't. But don't you want to try to win, right? There's that balance. I am glad that they did keep things going on defense, though, with Hickman and Diabate. Those could, and again, these are backup rotational guys. So what are we actually going to be seeing out of them, special teamers? But if they have a chance, at least they flash that they can play, right? That's it. They can play. They made an impact. They earned their way on. That's what you want to see. You earned it. Watkins earned it. But those other two did as well. So at least he's on there. Just looking on Twitter for any updated news here. Yeah, Marquise Goodwin back from the blood clots. It looks like he should be ready to go, which is great news. And that's probably why Watkins didn't make it. If Goodwin was still going to be off, I think Watkins makes this team. Let's see. Yep. Today from practice, Deshaun Watson, Elijah Moore, both out with illness. No real big thing there. As I mentioned, Nick Folk was one of the kicker names that people were mentioning as far as someone the Browns could go get via trade from the Patriots. They traded him to the Titans. Now, would I rather Folk or Hopkins? Probably Folk, but Hopkins a bit younger, and that must maybe is a part of it. Just some news. Let's see. Kadarius Toney of the Chiefs. Yeah, missed all training camp. Fantasy-wise, guys, Kadarius Toney. Everyone pops for Kadarius Toney. Guy runs fast. Can't stay on the field. And's got problems off the field. Not interested. He's on my do not draft fantasy list at any sort of level. Like end of the draft, fine, but someone's going to reach for him. Let's just see here. Anything interesting? Oh, the Patriots wave backup QB Bailey Zappi. And we can't make too much fun, Brown fans. Remember? We saw Bailey Zappi. Yeah. We saw Bailey freaking Zappi zap us. Colts will keep, this is per Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, from a source. The Colts will keep running back Jonathan Taylor on the PUP list. An indication no trade is imminent. There was significant interest from 2 teams. In the end, GM Chris Ballard did not feel it was enough. Wow. That's why you win in your fantasy drafts, folks. Can't draft Jonathan Taylor. Don't know where the heck is he going. Eagles are releasing Trey Sermon. Talk about a bust draft pick there, too, by the 49ers. Another one. Raiders have released Keelan Cole and Philip Dorsett. Yeah, nice kind of 5th, 6th guys. The Bears are releasing Nathan Peterman. How that guy, who does he have pictures on? Nathan Peterman is one of the worst professional quarterbacks I've seen play. And that guy just keeps getting recycled. My goodness. Absolutely terrible. And Josh Jacobs back in sign with the Raiders. As we know, they're releasing Damian Williams. Yeah, that's another name sort of the Browns might have kept an eye on if things happened before. Yeah. All right, nothing outstanding. We'll see trickling in throughout the day of, so-and-so or something from a 7th-round pick or whatever the case might be. But that's it, folks. So what we're going to do during the NFL regular season, which, my goodness, it's right around the corner. Every Sunday, 10 a.m. live, we're going to be taking fantasy football questions. We're going to be going through answering your fantasy football questions and hashtag Ask Andy. Sports betting questions, best bets, plays, props, all that good stuff, as well as Browns preview. So it's going to be a packed Sundays, and then we'll have a second show during the week. So it's going to be very fun, going to be coming quick. If you missed any of this show, make sure you subscribe, right? And we'll pop up the finished version so you can go back and check it out. Let me get one more question in here. Are we comfortable with punt and kick returns this season? Grant, my answer is no. But is it good enough? I guess so. I think we're a step above. Remember for a few years, it was a guy, just catch the ball. Just catch the ball and don't drop it. It was ridiculous. You're a bit better with that with DPJ. Did score a punt return touchdown, so that's fine. Kick return, how much is it even anymore? They get booted out of the end zone. You'll put maybe Pierre Strong back there, same build, same speed type of Demetric Felton, maybe Marquise Goodwin, maybe Jerome Ford. It's going to be hodgepodge. I'm not super concerned with it as long as you can. Don't fumble the damn ball. Just don't fumble it. And you're fine. You got Bubba Ventrone. I feel confident he'll be able to sort it out there. So there you go, folks. All right. Very good. Get us on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns on Instagram and TikTok at AndyMC Sports. Click subscribe. Check out the merch. We got some fun fantasy football and Browns merchandise, show merch in the description below, as well as bonus signups for some betting sites. So if you're looking for those little bonus cash stuff to get in, get ready for the NFL season, make sure you're clicking below. And also, I almost forgot. This is a fun little bit, okay? When you look at, it's called In the Pocket. Inside the Pocket is what it's called. And ITP, free-to-play game provider, run by the Jacksonville Jaguars' former SVP, Senior Vice President of Fan Engagement, Hussein Naki. So Inside the Pocket, and the angle is it's a survivor game, a 100K survivor game, where free to sign up, you win $50K, and another $50K goes to a charity of your choice. The best of both worlds. You're winning cash, and then a charity gets some money. So you can feel good about yourself, and you get lots of money. That makes sense to me. But yeah, Inside the Pocket. So it's a survivor pool, right? So we know how to play survivor. So you pick one team. You can only pick a team once throughout the year. And as long as you keep winning, you stay out. If you're wrong, you're out. So what week are you going to pick the Browns? Right? When are you going to pick the Browns? What week? $50K to the winner, $50K to the charity of your choice. It's live now. It's ready to play. So you just search it up. Inside the Pocket. Inside the Pocket. Free to play. 100K survivor NFL game. $50K to you. $50K to a charity of your choice. So pretty cool. Inside the Pocket. Check it out. I'm going to sign up and see how we do. Yeah, I have to think of a charity because I'm going to win it. So if you want to play, hey, let me know. Hit me up on social media. You want to play? Maybe we'll jump in a league or a pool together there. Inside the Pocket right there. So there you go, folks. Thank you to everybody. Thanks to Matt Fontana for joining us. We'll see you next time, and it will be the opening weekend of the NFL season at 10 a.m. for fantasy football for Browns preview. It's coming. It's almost here. Thanks for joining us. You've been watching the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. Go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.